Hi, welcome to segment 3. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at putting a zipper in the leg of a pair of jeans before we put trim on. So I have a pair of one of my boys' old jeans that I dug out of the jean thing. So we could look at how easy it is to put a zipper in a pair of jeans, especially if you have directional feed. Now this side, you can see I've put the zipper in already. So now we've got the zipper. The first thing I did was I measured how far up do I want my zipper, and then I marked my jeans. Once I have that done, let's turn over to the leg that's not done. I've got, and here I took one of my really pretty decorative zippers. I marked it right here. Then I took our Stitch Perfection tape. So I took this, I peeled it off, and remember, Stitch Perfection tape is sticky on both sides, but it is a totally water-soluble tape. So the first time you wash these, they're going to go away. So what I did is along the length of the zipper, I stuck a piece down. So you can see here where I have stuck this down. I stuck it down to both sides. And now I'm going to peel this away. Now notice when I talked about some jeans, this serging is part of the jean itself. When I took out this seam on the outside, remember we're not taking out the inside seam, we're taking out the outside seam. I took this apart with my faithful Floriani seam ripper. And then I laid this zipper in here. I'm going to take the protective paper off of my Perfect Stick. And once I have that, I am going to stick this down. Pull my zipper down a little bit here so you can see this. I'm going to stick this down so it holds. So that kind of helps us out when we go to sew this on, that it is held securely to the zipper. Now here at the end, we're going to unfold the hem, fold that into the hem, and there we go, nice and secure. Now we're going to take this over to our machine, and we are going to set up to sew this zipper in. Now the first thing I've done, you'll notice, is I have taken off the embroidery unit. Or if you've had your tray on for sewing, you've removed your sewing tray from your machine. So once that's been removed, I now have a free arm. Now these free arms are getting wider and wider as our embroidery units are getting bigger and bigger. And so they're sometimes a little bit difficult to use with stuff like this. So what I'm going to do, and I neglected to change my foot, so I'm going to take off this foot, put on my foot that works with my directional feed with this machine. All of your machines will tell you which foot you use for directional feeds. And I mean, my machine, one of my older Berninas has directional feed. So I know that machines had directional feed for a long time. So chances are your machine has directional feed if it's embroidery. So I'm going to just tighten this foot up, and I'm going to go into my sewing mode, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to pick my directional feed stitches. So what directional feed will do for us is it will sew sideways, because if you have those skinny jeans, chances of you actually getting them around this and turning your jeans this way to sew straight down is almost impossible. In fact, it is impossible. I fought, so that is why you pay the big bucks for these classes, because I've already made all the mistakes. So I've already done all the struggling. Now you're going to learn easy. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to come in at the top, and I'm going to sew just straight down. I'm going to put my foot down, and I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to go ahead and slow my machine down here and go forward. And we're not going to go fast because we don't want to break our needle, we're going to take our time. And that's why, too, sometimes it's a good idea to have these right here because they're going to help us. Our little stiletto tool. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my foot up. I'm going to move it back just a hair. And I'm going to pull this down. And now I'm going to set that foot so it's going to sew sideways. And I'm going to use my sideways motion. So now I'm going to put my foot down, push my button, and it's going to sew sideways. How cool is this? Now I'm going to come down until I get closer to this zipper head because, of course, yes, we're going to have to move our zipper head out of the way because this is not a zipper foot. It's for our directional feed. But this is way cool stuff. And you can still stitch right along that edge. And when I get down, and I can go a little bit faster, but I don't like to go too fast on this. And I'm going to stop with my needle in my fabric. Stop with our needles down. There we go. But I'm going to put my foot up because I need to get this zipper past my foot. So now I'm going to pull that zipper up. You can see how I pulled it all the way up here. And I'm going to put this back down. And we're going to go ahead and continue with our directional feed. And we're going to continue until we go right off the end over our cuff. Or our hem, I'm sorry, not a cuff, it's a hem. Let me pull my machine a little bit faster. I'm not using my foot because it's too hard on videos to get to my foot and everything, so I use the machine going, but I do know that no problem, it will do just fine using your foot. Now I'm going to cut this. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to go ahead and finish this at the end because I can get here very easily. So I'm going to go ahead, put my foot down, and go forward here all the way to the end. How cool is this? We're going to do exactly the same on the other side. Only this time I'm going to come up a little bit, go ahead and get my hem done. And you can see with these jeans, I have a little bit of room, but not much. It's much easier doing directional feed. So again, what are we going to do? We're going to set our directional feed up, put our foot down, go the right direction, which to me is to the left. And we're going to let me cut this. I'm using one of these zippers with these little rhinestones on them, and so it's not feeding well on the rhinestones. So I'm gonna go ahead. No, we're gonna start it. No, we'll keep going. We're gonna be fine. There we go. There we go. Now I got it. I had a rhinestone stuck in the foot. Now again, when I get close, I'm going to move that zipper head. We're doing good, we're doing good. Stop. Pull this around. I'm going to turn you, because now I can turn a little bit. I'm going to move the zipper head down. Let's go ahead, zip this down. There we go. Hold the end. There we go. Those fancy zippers. I'm going to go ahead, stitch on this side and down. So we're going to go ahead and stitch back across this side because we already did across the other side. And now I'm going to finish my directional feed on over to get back to my other line of stitching here. Now, if you didn't have such a fancy zipper, it would have been a little easier because those rhinestones have to get set in the right spot to zip. But how cool is this? Let's cut our tails off, pull our zipper down. How nice is that for a nice rhinestone zipper in here? Now with your regular teeth zippers, it's much easier to get it in because you don't have any of the dealing with the rhinestones. But I think this zipper is beautiful and I thought it would be fun to do. So now we've seen how we're going to put our zipper in. Whether we have trim on it, we stitch directly onto the pants, or whether we added a trim on. So let's look about adding our trim on. Now as you can see, I've already added it to this side, put this zipper in, but let's look at this one. Now you can see here what I have done is I have taken trim, I've cut it down and folded and pressed right under, right above my satin stitch line, because this happened to be the trim we made. So we did that right there. And you're not going to put your rhinestones on. Do not glitz this thing up until you have put it onto the pants, because then you're going to be dealing with these rhinestones while you're trying to sew everything down. So sew our trim first, then we'll put on our Swarovski crystals and make it all pretty. So now you can see right here what I have done is I have pinned this on where it needs to be, and then of course we're just going to come to our machine and sew this down on all four sides. Piece of cake. So I'm going to come in here. We're going to go ahead and put this on. I don't need directional feed anymore, so I'm just going to go to my regular stitch menu. Just take a regular straight stitch, and you know, if put your foot down and get my correct straight stitch, and then I'm just going to put this. Now you can continue to use, I'm using the same foot, but of course you could put on an edge stitch foot or any other foot that you work comfortably with on this. So all I'm going to do now is put this on, sewing around the edge. Try to move my fingers out of the way so you can see it. Now what you are going to do before you put your zipper on these pants is you're going to sew, of course, where we've opened this up, we're going to have to sew that to where the top of the zipper is going to go on before we put the zipper on. But I'm leaving it open because it's much easier to sew this along without dealing with them just barely open. So I'm leaving it open all the way up. You can see all the way up I've left this open. And then we'll work with it. And I have matched my thread to my duck cloth. And I wanted something that was really stable to put this on. Now of course, when I stitched it directly onto the jeans, on my other jeans, on the stretchy jeans, when I stitched that directly on, I of course used that perfect stick cutaway, so that was heavy enough to hold that design. But always remember, stitch count's a big deal. You need to make sure you've got the proper amount of stabilizer for your stitch count. And same thing. Then you're just going to go down this way, as you can see. Okay, I'm going to cut this off because there's no reason for you to need to sew all the way around it. That's not a major skill there. Now, what I will do is I am going to turn these jeans wrong side out. Okay, then what we will do is we will measure our zipper. Now I know I put a 5-inch zipper. So you can see I'm measuring my zipper here. Go ahead and take your tag off. Measure your zipper, because what are we going to have to do? We're going to have to mark where the head of our zipper is going to be. Don't put it in upside down. You want it to zip from the bottom up. So I'm going to mark on my jeans where I need to sew down to. Now I'm going to sew down right almost to the top of my trim. So what I will do is I'm going to cut off a little bit of these tabs. And there are some great how to put a zipper in jeans YouTube videos. Where do you think I learned? So feel free to see different ways, but this was the easiest way. So now I've got that, and again we'll do the same thing. We're going to put the end in the end of our thing, and we'll go ahead and sew this zipper in after sewing our jeans up. So we'll go ahead and sew our jeans up. There's no reason to put a second zipper in because you've already seen how we do zippers. But notice I've got this serged edge here because any of these jeans that have any lycra in them, they are not going to have that. Once you take them apart, all that serged edge is going to come off because that's how they put them together. The nice heavy denim jeans, of course, are done differently. Now, of course, we're going to match this up, right? We want these to match, so make sure your trim matches as you're pulling this out to match. And we're just going to sew to the top of our trim, back stitch, and cut. So now we'll do the same thing with putting our zipper in. We'll go ahead and put our Stitch Perfection tape on it, put our zipper in. Now once all of that is done, we'll have put this zipper in the same way we just looked at the other one, putting our Stitch Perfection tape in. Here our zippers will go in. Again, I will use Directional Feed because on these machines it's just too difficult. So Directional Feed, get your zipper in perfect. How cool are these? I mean, my granddaughters love them. But what's our next step? Our next step is glitzing our babies up with our Swarovski crystals. So what I've done is I've taken this pair and I've done most of it for you, but I'm going to show you how to put the crystals in. I've left a few open spaces. So we're going to get our crystals. If I can find what I did with them right here. Right before I filmed, I knocked the whole thing in the floor. So they're all over the floor. But I got a few back up, enough to do our little jeans. We're going to take our heat set tool, our Floriani heat set tool here. Make sure I'm under the... And what you're going to do is, I love using the Floriani tweezers because chances are they're going to turn the wrong way. They're going to always be wrong way up. Real fun to play with. So with my tweezers, I can get them into place very easily. So I've got my tweezers there, got my crystal in place. We've got 4 crystals missing here. So we're going to put them in. This was such a fun project making trim. And just since you've done the lesson, you already know you can make any kind of trim you want. Now with our Floriani heat set tool, this uses 2 AA batteries. Now what I do is I have a battery charger with rechargeable batteries. You get about 4 or 5 hours of heating time. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you figure you're doing 15 seconds at a time, it takes a while to use up the batteries. But I do have rechargeable batteries that I use for this. So now we're going to come in and we are going to hold our button. Now the minute I touch this button, this light's going to turn red. And that is demon red, because demon red here means it's hot, hot, hot. Do not test me on this. The first time I touched it, they said it was instantly hot, and I thought, yeah, right. Let me tell you, it blistered and it peeled. It was that hot. So when I touch this, I'm going to just lay it flat on top of the crystal. Woo, that one took a hike. There we go. Let's go back. Try to do this where I don't lean over and you can't see. So I'm going to go 1001, 1002, 1003. I'm going to count to 15 seconds. I found, especially with these jeans that may have a finish or something still on them, if I hold it for 15 seconds, that baby is on there. Do not touch them. Let them cool. If you try to pick this thing off before it's cool, not only are you going to burn the fire out of your finger, if it's cool, you can move it. I mean, if it's still hot, that glue is hot and you can move it around. So do not touch it until it completely cools down. So now I've got that crystal on. So now I'm going to come and I'm going to put the next one on. Again, I'm going to hold that to the count of 15. Once we have done that, we've let them cool. Our jeans, our trims are forever. Swarovski are the nice crystals. They're the good quality crystals. They have great glue on them, and the sheen is unmatched. And just a little, while we're doing this, because it takes a little time to put these in, I'll tell you how I know how to say Swarovski. I went snow biking with my boss, and those snow bikes are pretty awesome, but they have skis on the front and the back, and you just go down the mountain and you lean to the right, lean to the left, and they turn. Well, I was real nervous when I started, so I was going very slow, very slow. Well, finally I got up my courage and was moving pretty good, and I thought, hey, I got this down, baby. I could do this. Well, just about the time my confidence peaked, I turned around, and instead of leaning, I turned the handlebars. Mistake. I did a 180. Now the largest, heaviest part of my body is on its way downhill. And I getting downhill, and all of a sudden my snow bike does a hi-ho silver. Up comes the front and down goes Kathy off the back of that bike. Let me tell you, I couldn't walk for weeks. So I swore off skiing. So that's how I know how to say Swarovski. So there's our Swarovski crystals. I'm putting our last one on. I hope you really enjoyed this week's lesson, or this month's lesson. It's Progressive Classroom number 7. I look forward to seeing you next month, where we're going to do some green paper towels out of cloth so they can be washed. So we're going to have lots of digitizing techniques next month. We're going to get deeper and deeper as we go through on our digitizing techniques. So I hope you enjoyed making trim this month. I sure enjoyed it. Know now you can take any trim, you can create it in your Floriani Total Control software, and you too can have beautiful trims. You can see we have gorgeous trim on this. We have our beautiful jeans. They zip gorgeous, and how fun is that? Latest style, latest fashion, and everybody loves it. I look forward to seeing you next month. Have a great month.